Have you ever seen a promotion and something about it didn't add up? Not the title, not the celebration, the math. I didn't think about that when Darius called me. He said, "They offered me the position," and I didn't even pause. "Darius, say less. You taking it?" Already said yes. That was it. No questions, no breakdown, no numbers. We just treated it like progress. 3 weeks later, he called me back. He said, "I ran the numbers last night. I'm making less than I was." And I didn't say anything for a second, because I was the one who told him to take it. Let me back up about 3 weeks. Darius is my cousin, not the loud one, not the one you notice first, the steady one, the kind of person who doesn't need to talk much for people to assume he's doing fine. 6 years at the same food distribution warehouse outside Atlanta, floor associate, then shift lead, then the guy everybody leans on when things start moving too fast. So when the assistant operations manager role opened up, it wasn't even a debate in the family, it was his. Even I believed that. He called me on a Thursday. I remember because I was still sitting in my car at work, engine off, not ready to go in yet, when his name popped up on my screen. 3 weeks later, I'm back in that same car, same parking lot, different feeling. My phone buzzes, Darius, not a call, a text. "Yo, did you know they could do that?" I stared at it for a second, then called him back. He picked up on the first ring, and his voice was calm, not angry, not confused, just settled in a way that makes you pay attention, like he'd already spent the night thinking about it too much. He said he went back and checked everything, pay stubs, hourly rate, overtime. Then he lined it up against the salary they gave him, the salary he had already accepted, the salary that had already replaced everything else. And then he said it again. "I'm making less, Reg. I ran it 4 times. Less than what? Less than before the promotion. I didn't respond immediately, because nobody at the celebration dinner asked for that number. That's not how we celebrate. We celebrate the title. We celebrate the move. The math usually comes later, if it comes at all. So let me tell you what happened between that Thursday phone call and that Tuesday text. About a week after Darius accepted the offer, the family got together. Not a big thing. Dinner at my grandmother's, maybe 8 or 9 people. The kind of meal that happens when there's a reason to make it happen. Darius showed up in a collared shirt, which for him is basically a tuxedo. My grandmother made a plate for him first, which in our family means something. My aunt kept saying assistant operations manager, like she was memorizing it. My sister Tasha was there. Even my grandfather stopped by for a little while, sat at the edge of the table the way he does, nodded at Darius once, which from him is a whole speech. Nobody asked what the salary was. Nobody asked what he'd been making before. Nobody pulled out a calculator. We just believed in it. And I led the believing. I said, "Darius, that's your time," probably 3 times that night. I meant every word. I keep thinking about what I would have said differently if I'd known. What one sentence would have changed the whole thing. I don't even know if he would have turned it down. I don't think so, and I don't think he should have. But I keep coming back to that table and the one question nobody thought to ask. Now here's the part I didn't know then and wish I had. When a company promotes someone from an hourly role to a salaried one, even with a genuine title, a real new set of responsibilities, the whole thing, there's a switch that gets flipped in the HR system. One field changes. Non-exempt becomes exempt. And what that means under federal law is that the company is no longer required to pay overtime. That's it. That's the mechanism. Not a conspiracy, not fraud, just a legal reclassification that the offer letter doesn't have to explain, because it doesn't have to. Stay with me here, because this is the part that changes how you read the offer letter. I went and looked this up after I got off the phone with Darius, and y'all, the numbers are not small. The Economic Policy Institute tracked this over decades. In 1975, more than 60% of salaried workers were still eligible for overtime. By 2016, that number had fallen to 7%. 7. And then I found the study that stopped me. A peer-reviewed paper out of UT Dallas and Harvard, published by the National Bureau of Economic Research, found that companies systematically inflate job titles specifically around the federal overtime exemption threshold. Not occasionally, systematically. And the examples they documented, I need you to hear these. Director of First Impressions, Assistant Bingo Manager. Y'all, these are real titles in real companies, created specifically so that a worker could be reclassified as exempt and the company could stop paying overtime. The researchers didn't have to editorialize, they just had to list them. Y'all tell me if I'm reading this wrong. Because what I'm saying is, this isn't rare. This isn't one bad company or one unlucky cousin. This is a documented pattern. And the reason you haven't heard it named is that it doesn't announce itself. It just shows up on your third paycheck. So back to the phone call, I asked Darius to walk me through the math. And he did. Slowly, the way you explain something you've already explained to yourself 4 times and are now explaining to someone else for the first time. He said his hourly rate before the promotion was about $22 an hour. And in his role as shift lead, he was averaging somewhere between 12 and 15 hours of overtime every week. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But that was the baseline. That overtime is time and a half. So $33 an hour for every hour past 40. I started doing the numbers in my head. 12 hours of overtime a week at $33 an hour for 52 weeks. That's just under $21,000 a year in overtime income. 15 hours a week gets you closer to $26,000. He said the new salary they offered him was $54,000 a year. I stopped doing math in my head, and I thought, wait, you see it, right? How much were you making total before? He said he pulled his W-2. His total compensation the prior year, base plus overtime, was just under $68,000. The promotion paid him $54,000. That's the math. That's the thing nobody did before he said yes. Not Darius, not me, not anyone at that dinner. The company didn't do it for him because they didn't have to. The offer letter listed one number, the salary. And that number was real. They just never mentioned the number it was replacing. He said it quieter than I expected. The title was real, Reg, the raise wasn't. And we both just sat there for a second. Now, I already know what some of y'all are thinking. You're thinking, Darius should have read the offer letter, should have asked questions, should have done the math before he said yes. You can't put that on the company. They gave him a real offer with a real number. That's on him. And look, I hear that. Read your offer letter, ask your questions, run your numbers. That's real advice, and I'm not taking it back. But here's what I want you to think about. The company has a finance team, an HR department, and a payroll system that knew exactly what Darius was making, base and overtime, down to the dollar. They had all the numbers. They just didn't put them in the same sentence as the offer. And they didn't have to, because nobody ever does. Not because it's illegal, because it's not. But because the person who doesn't do the math is the one who just said yes. The offer isn't a lie. The offer is just incomplete. And the incompleteness is the whole game. I'm not saying Darius has a case. I'm not a lawyer, and that's not what this is about. What this is about is that the calculation that would have changed his answer took 10 minutes, and nobody told him it existed. Here's what I keep thinking about when I replay that conversation. The one move, the one piece of arithmetic the company never volunteers. Take your last 3 months of pay stubs, add up your base pay, add up your overtime separately, get a total. Now look at the salary they're offering. Does the salary clear your total, not just your base, your total, with room to grow? If it does, the promotion is a raise. Take it. If it doesn't, or if it barely does, you're not looking at a step up. You're looking at a title with a lower number behind it. And the only thing standing between you and finding out is whether you do this math before or after you say yes. That's it. That's the whole move. No negotiation strategy, no elaborate counteroffer, just the math. 10 minutes before you sign. Darius knows this now. He learned it the hard way. 3 paychecks in, at a kitchen table, running numbers he should have run 3 weeks earlier. Not because he was careless, because nobody told him to. I drove home from that phone call slow, sat in my car for a while before I went up, to a parking lot where I was sitting when he called to tell me he'd already said yes. Ain't seat where I said say less, without knowing what I was sending him into. I thought about my grandmother making him a plate first. I thought about my aunt memorizing the title. I thought about my grandfather's nod. I thought about how we celebrated something real, because it was real. The title, the responsibility, the 6 years he put in to earn it. None of that was wrong. The thing that was wrong was the silence around the number, the part of the math that never got said out loud. I told him to take it. I said, "Darius, that's your time." I meant it. I just didn't know to tell him to add up his overtime first. Neither did he. Neither did anybody who made him a plate that night. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever taken a promotion and found out later it cost you? Or are you sitting on an offer right now, looking at a salary number, and you haven't run the full math yet? I read every single one of these, and I already know some of y'all are going to find out the number looks different once you add the overtime in. Before you say yes to the next one, 10 minutes, pay stubs, add it up. The company already knows that number. Now you do too. And if you know somebody who just got promoted and is about to celebrate before they've seen the full picture, send this to them today, not to kill the moment, just so they know there are two numbers in that offer, and they should see both before they sign. I'm Reggie. Y'all stay sharp out there.